All right, I believe we're all assembled, so let me call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Thank you to our community, our educators, our staff, and of course, our volunteer board members here tonight, and of course, our cabinet. Thank you all for joining. School's open. We're tremendously appreciative of the dedicated work of all of our educators and our team members in opening school so successfully. Thank you all very much. We're holding this meeting on Zoom as we continue to upgrade our digital capabilities in our boardroom, and we will return to in-person upon completion. It's a regular board meeting tonight, and as such, I ask at this time for a motion to adopt the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I'll motion.
To approve. I'll second.
Thank you, Joanne and Roger, respectively. Ms. Zubaki, a vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's now turn to the flag salute. And Dr. Harbeck, in the ongoing tradition, if you would, lead us in the flag.
Stand. Put your hand on your heart. And ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All righty.
We will move now to public comments, but again, as we always do before going there, we'll look to share your thoughts and the comments folks have put on our website. The theme this week, or this period, was the value and needs of crossing guards to alert us if there are any days when any of our 5 crossing guards are not present. I believe Dr. Silvers will address this in his comments regarding crossing guards. We also remind everybody that this is a board meeting held in public. As such, we are bound by protocols, regulations, bylaws, and the Brown Act, which preclude us from engaging or responding to public comments as they're shared. This is why we remain silent during these comments. We do, however, diligently hear them, listen to them, and they filter in our deliberations. We also will be adhering to the protocols with regard to public comments that were instituted a couple meetings ago. And as such, in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323C, every individual speaker shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board, and this entirety will take no more than 20 minutes as the limit for public input. We will be using a format where a green, yellow, and red signal will be put on the screen denoting 3 minutes, then 30 seconds, 15 seconds, then 10 seconds, allowing you to see your time and ask that all speak and conclude their remarks within that time period. Ms. Zubaki, public comments, please.
Yes, looks like I have one public comment, but I would like to share that we did receive a public comment from Kathy Gore, and that was emailed to the board and the superintendent today. So with that, could we please bring Ms. Homburg over, please?
Good evening, everyone. Rebecca Hamburg Cappy. I am wearing 2 hats tonight. My first hat is as the Vice President for the Weisman Education Foundation. I just wanted to share a quick update with you all. Our annual campaign appeal is underway. As you know, the Ed Foundation is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and we're so excited to be able to continue to enrich and enhance the quality of education that students are receiving in the district. Our plans this year include continuing to fund the teacher on special assignment for the science in the elementary grades, to provide ongoing support for the district music program, and to sustain our funding for Keyboarding Without Tears. I know we received a request from Eileen Harbeck that we're looking at for how we can expand that program or continue to fund that going forward. We're excited about that. And of course, our teacher grant program is back this year. We are looking forward to providing, hopefully as soon as we get in all of those wonderful applications from the teachers, $40,000 in grants across the programs. That's our goal of at least providing that, and we'll see if there's more. We will do that too. We're also excited to help support the physical education program in the elementary grades, TK to 5. Coach Shackstad was so wonderful during the distance learning, and I've already seen her out there with her boombox in the morning at Cabrillo getting the kids pumped. So she's been a wonderful addition to the team there, and of course our continuing to support the care team and the expansion there, as well as with the new DEI focus that you all have. So we're really thrilled about that. We invite folks to visit our website to contribute to the campaign. We'd love to have 100% participation of not only the school board, but also of our families in the district. So just remind you that that campaign is ongoing. So I'm gonna take off my WEF hat for a second and put on my just regular parent hat. And so I'm also excited to have been invited by the district to apply to be the district's representative for the Southwest SELPA Community Committee, the Advisory Committee. And I know you guys are going to be talking about that later today, but just thank you for the opportunity to serve in that capacity. I'm looking forward to it, assuming that there are no issues with that, but I'm also happy to be doing that and continuing to serve the district in that role. So thank you so much for your time, and look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Rebecca, for both roles that you play and your engagement with our involvement with our community. Thank you very much. We'll now move to item 4 on the agenda, information from the board. Mr. Martinez?
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. Wow, 25 years, Weisman Ed Foundation, their anniversary. That is amazing. I wanted to just take a quick moment and thank Ms. Hamburg and all the volunteers over the wonderful 25 years, including one of our founders here, Dr. Goldman, for the contributions that have been made from the Weisman Ed Foundation to our school district, and more importantly, directly to our kids and the wonderful programs they support. So thank you. And I also wanted to just take a quick moment and welcome our staff and students back, especially our K-8. I know the high school's been already present, but our K-8 is in full force. It's wonderful to see the kids as I go out to the community on the fields and so forth. And obviously traffic is back. That's all part of just the school. So just want to take a moment and welcome everybody back. That's it. Short and sweet tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Ms. Canetta?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I have a few things I wanted to say. Number one, I echo especially what Mr. Martinez just said. Welcome back to everyone. Congratulations to teachers, staff, everybody, students, community, parents, everybody for being back to school. I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of specific groups. One are the crossing guards. I seem to be out in the community right about between 7 and 8:30 every morning. And for the last year and a half, that time frame has been pretty unexceptional. You just do your walk, ride your bike, do whatever you're doing, meet a few neighbors and get home. Well, 7 to 8:30 now has changed a whole lot. And the crossing guards are amazing. It's phenomenal to see the community, at least this area around Cabrillo, 138th and Dana. In that time frame, it's like a swarm. It's like some sort of magic wand happens, and there's cars and trucks and people, parents and children. It's amazing. For the time between like 8 o'clock and 8:45, it's just madness. The crossing guards are so needed and so important and are doing such a good job. I wanted to give a shout out to all of those folks. I also wanted to give a shout out to Todd Huzvika. One of my Saturday walks, it was about 7:30 the Saturday right before school started. I was walking through the parking lot at 138th Street School, and it was full of muddy water. And we know we haven't had any rain, so that was clearly some sort of problem. And as I was walking through the parking lot, about to text Blake about this problem, who drives up but Todd Huzvika in his truck, as if he had some sort of mental attachment to the district community here and knew that there was a problem at 138th Street. And he went through and figured out what the problem was, stopped the water from flowing, And ultimately, the parking lot was cleaned up, and Blake and I talked about some other actions that probably need to happen to clean the drains and the what do you call the pipes along the roof that catch all the debris. Anyway, to clean all those things out, assuming we will have some rain this year, to make sure we are ready for when it does actually rain. So anyway, I want to shout out to Todd because he was right there on Saturday morning at 7:30 in his own truck taking care of problems there. So really appreciate that kind of dedication and that kind of commitment to our schools. And I wanted to give a shout out to Blake. You know, one of the things that Blake did on the opening day of school was got all the teachers together and all the staff and did a state of the district and a recognition of all our new teachers and all our new folks who have been promoted from within the district, of which there were quite a few. But one of the things that doesn't happen in that state of the district is no one has a chance to actually tell Blake how good a job he's doing, because Blake's doing all the congratulations to everyone else. So I wanted to take a minute here to say thank you to Blake, to say thank you to Dr. Silvers for putting all the pieces together to get us back to school, for managing our district and loving our district as well as he does, and for supporting all of us, the board, the staff, the students, the community, the teachers, everybody in our efforts to educate our students and to be good citizens and good community members and successful at all the things we do, safe while we do it, and have the high standards of equity and inclusion and education that we have in the Weisman community. Thank you, Blake, very much for all the work you do.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you,
Oh,
Joe.
wait, you know what? I'm sorry, so much to do today. The other thing I wanted to say is that I've had an opportunity to work, my sort of special action committee is to work on the partnership between Weisman and Da Vinci. And I've had a chance to be doing that. You know, as everyone knows, working by committee is not always successful if the committee is very large. So we've decided to break the working group into a smaller group. And one of the wonderful board members on the Da Vinci board, Joe Weber, and I, Matt's subbing us the some kind of Joe's, I forget exactly, it's Joanne and Joe Weber. So here we are. And Blake and Matt have also started to work with us in a group of 4 to identify and actually establish ways of making sure that we're cooperating quickly with anything going on between the schools, making sure that the K through 12 education in the Weisman community is well understood and well managed. Not that it hasn't been, but that the communication in all ways between the various grade levels is understood, fast, managed, and complete. So we know that Eileen, we know that Nisha, we know that Dave, we know that Wendy, all the folks, Peggy and Blake, are already working closely between our Weisman Unified as well as the Da Vinci schools. Our goal is to make that a smoother relationship and also a more comprehensible relationship. So we're working on that, and to that end, we have our first joint board meeting in the recent past. This is going to be our first joint board meeting of this school year on September 15th between the Weisman Unified Board, this board, and the Da Vinci board. Of course, will be a public meeting, and we're looking forward to that. So now I'm done. Thank you.
Well said, Joanne. Thank you very much. All meaningful. Ms. Brown-Willis.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone. Wanted to share a couple of comments as well. I wanted to welcome everyone back to school in person. What an exciting time to be able to do that. And thank you, Blake, and to all of our wonderful staff that made that happen and make it a reality. It's no small feat. It's a huge, heavy lift to be able to be where we're at today and have live in-person instruction. And to all of our teachers as well for coming back to the classroom and seeing all of your kiddos, all of your students within Weisman. Alex, my youngest son, he is starting this year in 8th grade at Dana, and that'll be the last year I have a child in the Weisman Unified School District. my wife Minerva and I, that's our fourth son that will have gone through the Weisman Unified School District. So incredibly grateful to all of our staff and teachers for everything you do. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's fantastic that he gets to go back in person his final year at Dana. So really excited about that. It's really a wonderful thing to see the energy, the excitement of going back to school. There's nothing like being taught back in the classroom. Zoom and online has its own merits. I personally believe in live in-person instruction as the strongest way of delivering education. So to that end, we're excited about it. My next comment is related to COVID testing. I would like for us to try to do everything that we possibly can to be preemptive and preserve that in-person instruction, and by really looking at going towards mandatory COVID testing. I think it's absolutely paramount that we try to preserve the opportunity for and the safety of our students and staff so that we can continue with live in-person instruction. To me, there's no substitute for that. So Blake, I'm going to look at you here and so that you can advise us and obviously put together a timeline. I would love to see possibly in our next board meeting, whether it's a discussion item or if you feel it's appropriate to have as a options or possibly an action item for us to look at and fully discuss. What does that look like? Whether it's mandatory COVID testing for once a week, twice a week. Obviously, there's cost. There's a ton of implications that go along with that. For me, the preference would be as soon as possible if we could do that, but there's always a big implementation piece. Things do not happen in a vacuum. So that I would really like for us to explore that and look at options so that we can possibly go towards the route of mandatory COVID testing to preserve the safety and preserve in-person instruction. I think that's the best way to deliver instruction. Anything we can do to be safe, I would like for us to explore that. Then the last item, looking forward to an update on the demolition of Dana West and see where we're at. So that's probably Blake and your comments later. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you, everyone. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you all. Let me share my welcome back to everybody here, all the teachers, as I echo the comments of my peers on the board. Appreciate everybody's good spirit and cooperation in keeping safe and navigating COVID as we are returning. Good news is it looks like we're having slightly improving waters in COVID rates of infection in LA County. Hospitalization is down. May we hope this trend continues. Good news indeed. On a separate note, I want to acknowledge and thank the good folks at Chevron for granting us $25,000 as we start the year. So thank you, Chevron, for that gift. We appreciate that. Also want to share an appreciation for the work and dedication of many players, and I'll particularly single out Vicente Bravo for dealing with the unsubstantiated cyber threat at DV earlier this week that was ultimately deemed not credible. The El Segundo Police Department was very much involved and very helpful here. Thank you to all for the professionalism and the DV team in handling that. This was both an education and an opportunity to explore this within Weisman to ensure and remind of our incredibly vigilant protocols as an impetus to ensure that we continue to remain vigilant in our emergency protocols and preparedness. So, you know, we've had, Dr. Silvers, we've had numerous talks on this, and I know you're working with the cabinet to ensure we take every additional step we can. Joanne, I wanted to, in my prepared marks, I did want to call you out and thank you or acknowledge you for the great work you're doing in furthering the relationship with Da Vinci and the partnership. And a thank you goes to Joanne. We call them the Joe and Joe meetings, is what we call them. Joanne Canetta and Joe Weber. Thank you, Joe, at both Joe Weber at Da Vinci as well, Dr. Silvers and Wonder, for your work in furthering our relationship and our partnership. So really appreciate that. We're seeing great progress and really great opportunity there. So thank you very much. On a personal note, I was thrilled to attend the lunch for new educators who have joined our team. We had the biggest team I think we've ever had, at least in memory, requiring us to charter a bus to take them around the district. I thank, personal thank you to Chris Torrey and the Weisman Faculty Association for their invitation and inclusion to me personally, for the opportunity to meet and address the talented and impassioned new team members. So thank you very much. Our WFA and CSA relationships are vital, and we work hard to make sure that they remain as strong as they are. And then finally, it was also very exciting to attend the kickoff professional development session with our speaker, Barute Kafele, with all our staff, and be able to share a few words of welcome in person. So again, welcome to everybody. Thank you, all the teachers, all the educators, all the staff, all the counselors, all the maintenance folks, all the office folks, everybody for the vital role you play in our educating our students. So again, thank you all. Let's now turn to the cabinet and our chief business official, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. One quick comment tonight, just a reminder that we will have our budget oversight committee meeting on Tuesday, September 21st, starting at 4 p.m. So looking forward to getting that going. And then I will discuss unaudited actuals when it comes up in the agenda.
Perfect.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to our Director of Psychological Services, Ms. Mazzarella.
I just want to echo the board's comments as well about everybody being back in school. It's so exciting to see kids back on campus full time every day. It's been exciting. We've got a lot of new staff, so that's exciting as well. We've got, special education is up and running, obviously, and teachers are doing a great job. We still continue to have some vacancies, which can be impactful. It's not for lack of trying to fill them. So that's been a challenge with staffing. And I'm sure you're hearing that all in the news. That's a common theme across the nation right now. So we're really, my hat is off to the teachers who are trying to really, who are doing their jobs and taking care of all the kids. And we're really trying to get those positions staffed as quickly as possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Dugal.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Goldman. I know everyone's talked about the start of the school year. I just want to officially welcome our 26 new certificated staff members, our inaugural class of 2021 class. And yes, it was one of our largest kind of classes, and so that was great. We also had numerous classified employees begin on August 31st as well, including elementary PE aides. And so I know someone earlier talked about Coach Shackstad, and knowing that we also have aides to help her out with the elementary PE program. I will say on the first couple of days of school, one of the best parts was actually visiting our preschool that's now open at the Del Air site. And so it was great to see our youngest learners back on campus. And so it was great to see them. Also on the COVID front, I encourage everyone, parents, students, staff members, please do come out and get tested every Tuesday and Thursday at Dana from 12 to 6:30 p.m. Results are coming in within 24 hours. And so we appreciate the quick turnaround time from Fulgent. But really this testing piece is really community driven, and the more students and staff members we get tested on a regular basis, the better for us in terms of data collection. And so please do take advantage of that testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dugal. From our Assistant Soup of Educational Services, Dr. Harbeck.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. Good evening. I have a few things to share with you tonight. We lifted off our independent study program on the very first day of school for our students who had signed up. A big shout out to Kim Jones and Sarah Nitzos, who not only acted as administrators, but also the clerical and the teachers for this program until we could get it staffed. This came to us late in the game in August, the need to have an independent study, and we were pleased to be able to lift off well with that program. We have a total of 68 students, and as of today, we are fully staffed in the teaching for ISP or independent study. So we're very pleased about that, but really happy about moving that along quickly. I was able to meet earlier this month with Miss Allegra Johnson, who's the Executive Director of Educational Services for the Da Vinci Schools. We have a tentative plan to meet with all the principals, a joint principal collaborative on September 28th. This will be our initial meeting, an introductory meeting, just a chance for the principals to meet each other again, to talk about some of their signature practices at their schools, programs, and pathways. We're going to be setting up other meetings this year. We're counting on about 3 or 4. Allegra is really part of the team now with Sarah and myself. We felt very comfortable in having time with her, so we're looking forward to more of that as well. So going to look forward to, I'll come back and share with you our outcomes as those meetings take place as well. The last thing I want to talk about is that we have really an outstanding history of participation in our professional learning, always in Weisman, but this year even more so. The whole week before school started, you know, our staff came out, our teachers as learners, bringing the very best practices to their classrooms to start this year. So impressive turnout with our staff for all the professional learning that we offered, and we just really are thankful for their energy toward that. And that's it for tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Harbeck. And as you know, articulation K through 12 has been a long-standing goal of this board. Really appreciate efforts moving that forward. Thank you very much. Dr. Silvers.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. Just a few updates. I think people kind of take my updates every time I need to go. Maybe I need to start going first so I can share some of these. No, I have plenty to share. I do want to say that, you know, when you look at special education, you know, Peggy's report and the amount, the lift, the commitment to special education, and obviously the difficulty hiring staff, hiring aides, hiring the support needed to provide our students with what they need to be successful in the classroom is a huge lift. And then obviously, you know, you heard from Eileen and her, you know, the professional learning opportunities that teachers had, the work that goes into that, and, you know, certainly Nisha for, you know, the hiring of 20 plus, you know, 23 plus teachers. That doesn't include the classified employees and all the postings that entails. And then, you know, we'll hear from Dave today with unaudited actuals. You know, Wendy is the backbone, and, you know, she's here today. I mean, nothing happens without her hand being a part of this. And so, you know, all in all, I think the team, you know, is doing all of this successfully, and it's amidst a pandemic. And so it's hard to, you know, to think about that at the end of the day, you know, all these things are happening, and we're also struggling to keep up with the latest mandates and the latest numbers and calls for vaccines and testing and all of these things that we're just trying to stay in front of. So just a hats off to the team, you know, from me for the work that they're doing. It's just really, really incredible. And so thank you for that. I also want to congratulate the entire teaching staff, our support staff, our students, and families for the return to school. I say it was, you know, it's that the pit of your stomach, it's kind of the butterflies the night before the start of the school year. It was back, you know, it felt like it was gone for a year and a half. And all of a sudden we had this feeling of just excitement to bring kids back to school. And that's for both in-person and independent study. You know, there's teachers that are, students that they can't come to school. There's health concerns, et cetera. And, you know, we're offering a high quality independent study program, as well as then obviously 97+% of our students are returned to in-person instruction. So that's very, very, very rewarding for us to see. So thank you to all those, and congratulations to all the people that put in the time to make that happen. I also want to congratulate, special congratulations publicly and in this forum to Erin Henn, who is this year's Certificated Employee of the Year. We celebrated Erin at the back to school the back to school day, the state of the district and all of that. Erin is an SDC teacher at Cabrillo, and just very, very excited about, you know, she's very, very excited to be a teacher in Weisman, and we're very excited to have her here. The work that she does with students with special needs is just really remarkable. And during a pandemic, you know, as I shared with the staff, she was the first one to want to get back into the classroom to teach students, because she knew that having those students in the classroom was the best way to teach them. That was going to be their way to learn and to kind of minimize some of the gaps. So want to give a shout out publicly to the board for Erin. Also, and definitely not least, Silka Takun, who is our Classified Employee of the Year. And, you know, a lot of us who are here, you know, on the screen rely so heavily on Silka, on her expertise, on her smile, on her welcoming nature every time we walk into the office. But what a lot of people may not know is how many hats Silka wears on a regular basis, whether it be in the business office, payroll, working with HR, and really knowing almost every single office within this organization truly makes her an MVP. And so I just give a special shout out and recognition to Silka, and she was our Classified Employee of the Year. So I know Dr. Goldman also shared about Principal Baruti Kafele, and kind of kicked off the year with really motivational and inclusive talk regarding, it was an inclusive workshop, but his speak was very inclusive, growth mindset, inclusive practices, how we can try and operate so that all students have a level playing field, if you will, and that we are able to mitigate some of the challenges and obstacles that some of our students come to school with every day. So really kicked off the year in a positive way, and happy to have had him join us from Newark, New Jersey to kick off our session, our school session this year. Then talking a little bit about school facilities, I know that Joanne mentioned there have been a couple issues. We actually have had now, I think, 3 pipes that have broken. And as we're going to ask the board at one point very soon, is we obviously need more maintenance support to help support this process of fixing pipes as they break. I mean, these are not just a small dig. I mean, you're talking 4 to 6 foot deep holes, to cut out those pipes and replace them, and obviously stop the water and make sure that our schools still have water. So, but aside from the problems, aside from some of the mitigation of the problems or fixing of the problems that happen, our facilities, every year just look phenomenal when our students come back to school. And there are a host of people that just take such pride in making sure that those facilities are prepped, are ready for the teachers. And the amount of pride that you see walking on those campuses from those individuals is just really, really heartwarming. And so my hat's off to that entire facilities, maintenance, custodial team. They definitely left no stone unturned this year as students were coming back, and still continue to do so today. We also had, I think we have a forest in front of 3 of our schools now. I'm teasing. We have lots of trees though. We have our trees back. Dana is full of trees, and Anza has trees, and Cabrillo has trees. I mean, we're definitely filling some of those empty planter boxes or tree boxes that were in the front of the schools, and it looks different. It's like sort of just a nice lift to the school campuses, and that beautification, really trying to have this balance between welcoming students to beautiful campuses and just that almost a psychological impact that entering these beautiful campuses has on student achievement. There's direct correlation between how students feel about their campus and then how they perform in the classroom. So really nice to see our planters boxes have been renovated, and we hope to see these plants grow soon. And we really, I can't wait to see those planter boxes full. But definitely, if you get a chance to walk by our classrooms and planter boxes in front of our schools, check that out. Actually, we'll be finishing this week. We have a group that will be on site Saturday. And they'll be fixing. There's a couple more sites in front of Anza, a couple more trees that need to be planted in front of Anza. A couple more several trees that need to be planted in front of Dana, as well as on the campus itself at Dana. We just had some material shortages and time shortages. So that should happen Saturday. We should be able to wrap up that work. Did want to talk to about crossing guards. I saw the message on Share Your Thoughts. And so I just want to add, I was unaware of a crossing guard not being present. So I think I would defer to Dave in some ways, as I'm guessing Dave didn't know either, but there were, we do check regularly. I know I drive regularly around campuses, and I would just encourage the public to reach out to our district office, reach out to the principal, reach out to the school secretaries, whoever you can get that initial contact from. We will make sure that those crossing guards are there and there, to support our student safety. We made it a big commitment to pay for that and to make sure that we have those high traffic areas and high traffic crosswalks covered by an adult who's trained to cross students. I also sent a message to Dr. Wonder, and again, I think in the spirit of collaboration and partnership, in the spirit of what Ms. Pineda shared, what Dr. Goldman shared, and others, the response that Da Vinci, the response to the cyber threat was really remarkable. I mean, if you think of receiving a threat of some sort in the middle of the night, 10 o'clock at night or something, and then having to respond throughout the night because you have 1,000, 1,500 students coming to school the next day, and literally to be able to have a message out to families by 5 a.m. the next morning, I mean, that's a pretty remarkable feat. And, definitely something that we can learn from, definitely something that we take notes, from the experiences that others have. So really sharing, a lot of congratulations and job well done. I guess I don't know if it's a congratulations or more of a job well done for the work that they did on that part. I also want to talk a little bit about COVID-19 testing. I know, Roger, you mentioned that certainly can bring back more information. But I also want to share that one of the biggest issues that a lot of school districts are facing right now is simply a lack of testing capacity at the state level. So just lack of resources and school districts just not having access to tests to the degree that we may want to. So, our ability to test students on a weekly basis, really right now, the capacity at the state level or product level is just not there yet. And so we're seeing even with some of the districts that have indicated that they may be testing every student every week are really not testing every student every week yet because they just don't have the capacity to do that. Not meaning we're not working towards it, and we are definitely trying to gear up for the ability to test more and more and more students because we know how important that is. And so we can bring back more of a plan at the next board meeting. Roger, maybe we'll have a little bit more information as to what testing is looking like then, and also maybe some information on vaccinations. Nisha, I actually may want to defer to you on this. Do you want to just share your conversation with WEF? I know that I think that'd be an important point.
Sure. So I met with the WEF, a few members of WEF today, Marilyn Cummins, as well as Ann Tittle, in regards to a partnership between Weisman Unified School District and WEF to host both kind of a testing day and a vaccination clinic, if possible, through Fulgent. And so we are working on securing dates. I'm working with Fulgent to secure additional testing dates for our school community. And WEF is looking into, some sort of opportunity drawing and prizes for both students and staff members and such that would be coming by to the event, as well as community members. And so we are really looking to ramp up our testing services, as well as make this really about a partnership with not only WEF, but our entire school community on how we can all be safe with testing and with additional vaccine access.
So just really trying to find ways to encourage people to get tested, again, to encourage people to get vaccinated. I mean, it's definitely a sort of a mantra of ours, and definitely not, it's not lost on us that that's a super priority. So again, we'll bring back another update too at the next board meeting, kind of keep that in our tickler file to keep bringing back. And I'm sorry, just with a lot, with several weeks in between, I do have just two more updates. I'll try and make them quick. But the other is the Dana West update. I did want to share a little bit of where we are currently with Dana West and the demolition there. Latest update is over the next 2 weeks, we know that Erickson Hall, the contractors are going to be doing utilities mapping. Don't exactly know, the specifics of what that means in the technical term, but obviously I can kind of piece 2 and 2 together as to what they're mapping out in terms of utilities and capping off utilities. We know we're moving our IT department that's currently on that site over to Dana Middle School. They're going to be erecting a temporary fence. It's driven into the ground, but a temporary fence. If not tomorrow, by very early next week. So that was their commitment because, it is an open facility right now, and just our concern, obviously, for safety and not wanting to have this, wanting to make sure that we're securing that facility. So they'll actually be doing that the next few days. And then we are expecting the first of the actual demolition to begin end of September. So that's our, and then in that, we're also looking at maybe having an opportunity in a safe way for community members to walk the site. I mean, we're still working with Erickson Hall on whether it's going to be feasible or to what degree we can have people walk on an active sort of construction site if they want to get the last picture of Dana Middle School. Sort of a lot of bittersweet feelings about that. Probably some more sweet right now, but there are people that went to school there and may want their last picture there. And so we're trying to figure out if that's possible and safe, and obviously won't do it if it's not. Definitely don't want big crowds and those kinds of things, and obviously not on an active, dangerous construction site. So more to come on that if we're even able to make that happen, but just sharing sort of some of our thoughts on that. And then last is the elusive, I'm going to call it the elusive renaming. And just, in the interest of obviously trying to maintain reopening of schools and in the midst of a pandemic, it has just been a challenge to get this going. We are now targeting the week of September 20th. We do have a budget meeting on the 21st. And then a board meeting on the 22nd. So, but within that week, adding another meeting to that to try and have our first renaming committee. We do have our activities drawn up for that. We're planned to have that. We're ready to have it. It's a matter of timing and being able to find that time. So we look to send out a calendar invite to those people that were selected or asked to be on part of the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I just too want to remind this board that after every meeting, we will send out a larger message with actually actionable steps that the community at large can respond to a survey and or questions so that they can provide their input, even if they're not a part of that Citizens Advisory Committee directly. So definitely wanted to find ways to engage the community in that. So yeah.
Blake, just a quick question on the Citizens Advisory Committee. One of the prior conversations, I think the wishes of the board were to make sure that committee was representative of all the areas of the community.
Yes.
Can you share that list with us so that we can see that? I just want to make sure that we have representatives from each of the areas within the Weisman USD boundaries. I think it's
Sure.
really important that they're all represented and have a voice
Yes.
in that process.
Yes, absolutely. And I will, I can email that out to you. I don't have it right here in front of me, but certainly can email that out to you and try to, but I believe, it is pretty comprehensive. And again, if it's still open, so I know that there's still some outreach happening, but we'll get started and try and get this, get it to you really soon.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. That's it for me, Dr. Goldman.
Thank you, Dr. Silvers. And if you are community members passionate about the renaming committee, please let us know. We want to include you if we can. Dr. Silvers, one other thing, in a prior meeting, was either last meeting or 2 meetings ago with the good folks at Erickson Hall, we had a conversation on the parking lot and fencing and trying to retain as much of the old Dana parking lot as we could. Did we have any success in doing that, do you know, or is it going to cover the whole lot? Does that ring any bells? On the north side.
It does. We're at this point, and just from all of the bumps and the divots or so to cracking and all of that on the concrete, I think we are looking to fence off pretty much that entire area. So to date, that's our answer. I mean, obviously, as they fence it and we take a look, I mean, if there's a way to keep that, I know it's to try and keep that one aisle open, right? So you can do a little bit of but it's pretty bad. I mean, ultimately we're going to want that broken up. It is a safety hazard. So let's see. Maybe it'll be iterative, and it could be sort of towards the end that we get that second piece and move the fence in. So
safety first, certainly. Thank you. All right, action items. Moving to facilities. Action items 5.1 and 5.2. Speaking of beautification, as you mentioned, Dr. Silvers, of our campuses. And one more thing I do want to add, by the way, is not only did we beautify the campuses with more trees, but the irrigation was completely redone, which is pretty important to know that we now have better processes to keep them looking beautiful. So thank you. A motion, please, on 5.1 and 5.2 together.
You have a motion, Neil?
Thank you, Nelson.
I'll second.
Thank you,
I
Roger.
have a question. How come the trees turned out to be change orders rather than having been part of the original bid?
I can answer that. So basically, when our previous facilities and maintenance director walked the site, we added some trees. So we'll just say there were some areas that were also unsafe, that when I walked the site with the construction team, we just needed to fill more wells, more of those tree wells, because they just were tripping hazards. And even if they were in the back of the school or off to the side, it just seemed like it was something that was an accident waiting to happen anyway, and let's just get it done now. So I actually added scope to this to fill some of the tree wells, mainly tree wells. The other one, the ANZA irrigation system, so the ANZA change order actually was more of an irrigation issue. There was an unforeseen major irrigation plumbing issue or water supply issue, and so it was an extended work. It was just something that was unforeseen. It was underground. They had to dig out, trench out the pipes and then replace a large portion of the pipe. So that was a larger cost that we just didn't know.
Okay, thank you. And a question I had before, I just want to verify that these trees are, how shall I say, appropriate to the site, in the sense of the way the roots grow and they drop fruit or nasty crushable things that stain the concrete and so on. We're avoiding that sort of thing with these trees.
We are. These are pretty common trees in parking lots to avoid all of those things. There's no plums, no fruit, very little dropping from the trees. Of course, there'll be some leaves, but even that, there's very little shedding of the leaves as well. So it should be a much easier cleanup than some of our others.
Okay, thank you. And roots, I don't know if any of you drove along Sepulveda through Westchester over the last several years, how horrible the tree roots have treated the sidewalk in the street there. So we know that these trees aren't going to do that either, right?
Right. These are, and I forget that it was explained to me in a way, and I'll mess up, but more sort of a bulb. The actually roots grow down and in a smaller, more compact way than the other ones that are branching out and actually rising up and then breaking the concrete. So these are meant to avoid those issues.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. As I recall, among the hundreds of thousands of possible trees, by the time the specs were done, we had a choice of like 4 trees or something.
That's probably true.
So that's where we were.
Maybe artificial trees might have been high on the list.
Any other
Okay.
comments here or questions? All right, Ms. Zubaki, 5.1 and 5.2, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Move to items on the 6th on fiscal. I want to save 6.4, so if someone would like to move 6.1 through 3, that would be welcomed.
Would like to move 6.1 through 6.3.
Thank you, Nelson.
I'll second. And wanted to mention that with regard to 6.3, we had some side conversation just through email. I had a question about how authorization to exercise the legal team was managed in the district to make sure that there's a very clear definition of who's actually authorized to cause legal fees to accumulate. And Blake assured me that there is a protocol that we follow. And I'm guessing, and I want to make sure that not only do we follow this protocol, but that the law firm also knows what that protocol is, so that anyone who needs to use legal services follows that protocol to make that happen. So Blake, I don't know if you want to have any comments to that.
Yeah, I could circle back with Atkinson Andelson just to be sure that they also know that. I guess that's sort of one gap that we can cover, but for the most part, all of any legal action or legal expense comes through the superintendent's office and is approved, by my office. And then ultimately, obviously, it's just, or not obviously, but it's just the chain of command beyond that. If I were absent, generally speaking, that's not the case, and I get the call, but all legal action I know about and have approved. I will check in with our partner, our managing partner at the law firm, just to be sure that she's also aware of that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Dr. Dougal, a question on 6.1. I think this is your bailiwick. The EASE program, I'm glad we're adding this. I wonder if you could just share if it's you or maybe Dr. Harbeck, I'm not sure, share the benefits this is providing in case of need.
Great. So we get monthly newsletters from EASE, and they have topics to address to staff, but most importantly, gives us additional resources to give to all of our staff members, both certificated and classified, who may need additional assistance of counseling or any sort of therapy. And so it's been an additional resource we have on top of our care team in terms of getting services for our staff members.
Great. Supplemental support service.
Correct.
Perfect. Comments or questions on 6.1 through 6.3? Ms. Zubaki.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.4, approve unaudited actuals financial report for the 2020-21 school year. Motion, please.
I'll move. You have a motion, Neil?
Thank you, Roger.
You have a
I'm gonna-
second?
Go ahead, Nelson.
Thank you,
You have a
Nelson.
second?
Dave will refer to you and tell us more, please.
Sure, I'd be happy. Let me share my screen. Everyone can see?
There we go.
All right. So we're going to go over the Weisman Unified School District 2021 year-end financial report. Unaudited actuals represent the cumulative financial activity for the fiscal year. That's July 1 through June 30th of every fiscal year. Subject to the annual audit. So there's still unaudited actuals, and that's because our auditors haven't come in yet and verified those totals. They're actually in the process of doing that right now. and that annual audit is due to the board by December 15th. So this is just the initial process of presenting the final figures to the board. So these are unaudited actuals to be audited. We have to file the report with the County Office of Education as well as the state, and it's going to outline excuse me, revenues, expenditures, and the final ending fund balances for not only the general fund, but all of our funds. For tonight's purposes, we'll only focus on Fund 01 or the general fund, because this is the main fund for our overall our general operations. So just to highlight how we ended the financial year, if you looked in the attachment, it's going to show you the full 100-page report of all the financial funds. It's going to show you, obviously Fund 01, but it's just going to show you a brief summary. And I wanted to show you a more in-depth analysis of what we're looking at. So if you looked at Fund 01 in the unactuals report, you'd see this combined, which means it's going to be combined with one-time revenues, one-time savings. So for LCFF revenue for this year, just over $21.3 million received. Federal revenue, about 3.1 million, of which 21.2 was one-time in nature. If you recall, we got a lot of one-time federal and state revenues to deal with the COVID, the pandemic. Other state revenues this year, $4.6 million, of which 1,022,000 was one-time in nature. And there are other local revenues. This is rent, Measure CL falls under this category, just under $3.4 million. So total revenue on paper, about $32.4 million, of which 3.1 was one time. For expenses, certificated salaries came in at about 14.5 million. Let me just go over all the expenditures and I can explain the one time. So classified salaries, almost 4.2 million. Employee benefits, this is STIRS, PERS, medical benefits, Medicare, I'm sorry, state unemployment, workers' comp. This was just about almost $7 million. Books and supplies, $930,000. Services and other operating expenses, this is legal fees. This is our consultants, special ed consultants, non-public schools, etc. Capital outlay, this is construction projects or purchasing capitalized items that cost more than $5,000. We had about 450,000 this year. If you recall, we had a lot of roof repairs. I think we had Cabrillo was painted. So we had some, pretty significant investments as well as purchasing some COVID expenses that were going to be capitalized over $5,000. And then other outgo, this is really special education. This is our regionalized cost for special education that we share with the SELPA, as well as our non-public school costs that we share with Da Vinci for the students that are ages 18 through 22 that we've agreed to with an MOU with Da Vinci that we'd share in some of those costs. These one-time in nature, certificate salaries, about 526,000. We had a lot of professional development investment this year. And we also had a $1,200 off-schedule stipend that we gave to certificate employees. Those stipends are one-time in nature. Classified salaries, about $87,000 in one time, about $1,200 of that off-schedule stipend. Employee benefits, about $140,000 one time in nature, and that's just the statutory benefits to these above. Books and supplies, about $401,000, and that was a lot related to COVID one-time purchases, PPE, other materials that we had to purchase, plastic dividers. We bought a ton of masks, et cetera, et cetera. Services and other operating expenses, about $494,000 in one time. Again, COVID-19 related one-time purchases. And then the capital outlay that was one-time in nature, $220,000. That was for the one-time bipolar ionization project that we put in each of our HVAC units that we also consider one-time in nature. So of those expenses, about 1.7 million, or I'm sorry, 1.8, 1.9 million one-time in nature. We also had some one-time savings this year, and I'll go over that. So certificated salaries that we had one-time savings. We had a lot less substitute teacher costs this year. We weren't in school basically from, late August through, almost mid-March, I think, or early March. So we did have some significant substitute costs that we know we're going to come back on the books as we hopefully have a full school year. Same with classified. We think we had some one-time savings, about $120,000. We didn't have as many instructional aid needs or noon duty aides. less statutory benefits, we had some savings, and that's related to the two above. Books and supplies, again, we were out most of the year. We had less operational supplies required and less instructional supplies required. And then, so with all that, I think after you factor in the one-time revenues, one-time expenses, one-time savings, we're really looking at a net surplus of about $132,000. So we ended, I think at second interim, or I'm sorry, at estimated actuals when we presented the budget, we were projecting about a $97,000 deficit. So we had about a $230,000 swing to actually end the year with a surplus, which is great. I think over a $30.6 million budget, that's less than a 1% delta. So pretty happy with that original projection of a deficit of 97,000 to now a surplus of about $132,000.
Can I ask a question, Dave, before
Yes.
you go any further?
Yes.
The capital, you mentioned that capital outlay, anything more than $5,000, I think. Is that a district number, the $5,000 number, or is that a mandated number to us to define capital outlay?
It's more of an industry standard for education. It's the auditors come in, and I mean, you could probably tell them why you didn't want to do it, but I think in the audit guide, it's anything over $5,000 of equipment or a purchase like that. Yes.
Because
So
that number's been around as a rule of thumb number for many years. And, as time goes by, $5,000 is a lot less, doesn't get you as much as it did 10 years ago or whatever it is. Because
Right.
I've been working with budgets all over the place over many years. $5,000 is still the number 30 years later. So I just wondered how it was defined, but it is an industry standard number. I understand that, but it's been in place for so long, it feels so outdated, but it's what we use. So anyway.
Yeah, Joanne, and you know what? I actually, the auditors are technically here this week. They're doing their initial audit. So I'll raise that question, is that something, it is industry standard, but is that something that with board approval that we can change if we see the need fit?
It gives you a little more flexibility with funding and with your budget, if that number is different. And but obviously you want to stay auditable and you want to stay within the bounds that you're supposed to have. But I've been working with budgets you have to, for so many years, and 5,000 has been that number, I know, for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So just
I
a
agree.
question. Thank you.
I'll look into it and I'll get back to the board.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Joanne. Dave, too. Before you move on PPE, obviously we made a significant investment in PPE based on our best guesstimates and recommendations and whatnot. I'm curious where we are with supplies, if they have a shelf life, if that's something we'll be needing to buy again. Where are we on that?
So right now, the LACO has a program where they're providing free PPE. At least a lot of the items that we need are free through Los Angeles County Office of Education. Like some of the stuff I don't believe has a shelf life. I think the sanitizer, things like that have a pretty long shelf life. Hopefully they'll last beyond the pandemic. But we feel right now we're in our previous director of maintenance and operations really inventoried it, labeled everything. So I was over there a couple weeks ago. We have a plethora of items, and I've asked our buyer to look into that to see, are we in need of anything else? And then once we replace our director, we'll have him or her with that task as well to see where we are inventory wise.
Great.
But to start the year, the school year, we had a ton of stuff.
Great. Just don't want to get caught flat-footed, obviously. So thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. And I just wanted to show the general fund expenditures and kind of how they related to the overall general fund budget. So for certificate salaries, 47% of our budget, just almost $14.5 million. Classified, just over $4.1 million, or 14%. Employee benefits, almost $7 million, or 23%. So these three categories combined make up 84% of our budget, and that's not uncommon for school districts. They're usually in that 85 to 90% range. And that's just, we're a people person business. And so a majority of our expenses are in people.
Hey, Dave,
yes.
I have a question. The mandatory contributions that we have as a district to the, I don't know if the retirement funds or whatever.
CalSTRS and CalPERS.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that included in the employee benefits number?
It is.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it's CalSTRS retirement, CalPERS retirement, the district's cost, not what employees pay, but what we pay on behalf of the districts
Right.
for their pension. It also includes state unemployment, workers' comp, the medical benefits and dental benefits that we provide our employees. So it's all of that rolled into one major category.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Books and supplies, $927,000, or only 3% of the budget. Services and other operating expenses, $3.4 million, or 11%. Capital outlay, we talked about, $450,000, or 2%. And then that's other outgo, which is the kind of specialized special ed programs. Doesn't even register as a percent, but $139,000. So again, majority of our budget is personnel costs. And then I just wanted to go over where we were with our reserves to end the year. So if we just look at Fund 1 as a percent of total expenditures, 9%, so we have 2.7 million designated for economic uncertainties, or 9%. If we include Fund 17 balance, or $730,000 in additional reserves, it jumps up to 11.4. And then if we also included Fund 20, let's say we got in a pinch and we had to, borrow some money to cover us reserves, jumps up to 19.9%. And just to kind of compare to where we were for the 1920 unaudited actuals, this first 9.0 was actually only 5.8. Wow. This 11.4 was 7.6% last year, and this 19.9 was only 17%. And ultimately, we've talked about this before. Our ultimate goal, I think, is 17%, and that comes recommended from experts in the field, because that represents about 2 months of general fund expenditures. And so, and that's only looking at Fund 01 and Fund 17. So we've come a long way in 1 year, and we're hoping to make up some more ground as we go forward.
Dave,
That's really good news. Thank you.
It is. Thank you for the progress here. It's our financial security. It's vital. Actually, it takes me to a question I was going to ask later, but it's really relevant here, because effectively, if I'm understanding things correctly, Fund 20 actually is overstated in terms of allocated funds, because we've dedicated the CL set aside of 1.6 million for the demo of Dana. And my question then, which was going to be, so first of all, just a reality check on that. It is still 19.9 because I haven't spent the money, but it won't be shortly, because 1.6 million is going out the door. My question is, if in fact the demo exceeds that 1.6, we had already gone through this. You did a presentation, thank you very much, on we've got the money elsewhere. But my question is, where do we plan to take that money from, should we in fact exceed 1.6 million? Because the estimate could be 1.8.
Right. So I think with the allowances built into the Erickson Hall and the 3 prime contractors, I think it was closer to 1.74, 1.73 million, 1.74. So obviously 1.6 is not gonna capture all those expenses. So the first fund that we would look at after would be developer funds, right. Developer fee funds, and we have I think approximately $1,000 in that fund that would cover that delta.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
But you're right, though. As of June 30th, we still had this much. Come November, December, we'll have approximately $1.6 million less. Yeah. And then here's just a summary of our other funds. So cafeteria fund, we ended with a $111,000 balance. Deferred maintenance, this is things that are for deferred maintenance, painting, asphalt slurry, etc. about $538,000. Our special reserve fund, this is the reserve for economic uncertainties. That's falling into a different fund, Fund 17, $730,000. A reserve fund for post-employment benefits. We know that's going to be taken down over the course of the first 6 months, $1.6 million. Bond funds, we still have about $1,000 in there. Developer fees, I shorted myself. I said 520, 530. It's actually closer to 555. And then state matching funds from other state matching projects that we've received, about $76,000. And then our Dana after school, our WCDC Dana after school fund, a negative 2.4. And that's because the way that this is called an enterprise fund, and you have to show the liabilities in a different fashion than you have to in the general fund. So it actually has a negative ending fund balance. It has a positive cash balance, but in terms of accounting, it just shows a negative ending fund balance.
Dave, a quick question. When you take the 538,511 for deferred maintenance, that's typically what we get on an annual basis. Is that accurate or not accurate?
No, so we're typically getting right now between $75,000 and $100,000, and it's getting I don't know what's the right word. We're getting revenues based off the piggyback bids that we have. So we've gone out, we've gone to bid, we've done all the legwork on certain piggybacks, and other school districts will say, hey, you guys already have, put this out to bid, got the lowest prices, did all the legwork. We'll give you a 1% or a 2% fee if we use your piggyback bid. So that's how this is getting replenished, I should say.
Okay.
And we still have, I think, 2 or 3 more years on the existing piggyback. So this is still in good shape, but we also get about $800,000 in our general fund in a restricted resource called Community Redevelopment Funds that is also for routine restricted maintenance or deferred maintenance, and that's replenished every year to the tune of $800,000 to $900,000. So right now we're looking fairly good in just our routine maintenance projects, so that we can afford slurries, we can afford painting, we can afford roof cleaning, things like that.
Okay, I think you've answered my question, because I was concerned that 538, and when I compare it to the 29 million, removing the 3 million one time in revenue, it only accounts for 1.8%. So that kind of concerned me in terms of, but it sounds like we have another fund that we also, because I think that's important, especially as our facilities are aging. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I think that's it. Any other questions?
I did have a question on the overall, that you're not getting to the detail here, but it was in the attachment. And I got really excited about something that I may be just way off kilter.
Okay.
But on page 3, designated page 3 of the attachment, I don't know if Wendy, you can pull it up.
Let me stop share. Okay.
On page 3 of the attachment, it goes through the line by line. I don't know if it's the GL, but just the various accounts. And one of the accounts says investments, and there's a zero balance. But I got really excited about that because it made me wonder, is there a possibility, since there's a placeholder for investments, that we actually could do investments? And I'm obviously very prudent, government-backed securities, AAA rated, et cetera. But, even a 1% return on a single $1 million that's sitting in our fund would represent more than an ADA and $10,000 that we could do something with.
I think I know what line you're talking about. So yeah, it's on this page, Wendy, I believe. It's right there, G2.
Number 2. Yeah.
So I've never seen this line populated. I do know that that regulations have really constricted or constrained how school districts can invest because of the bankruptcy, or not only school districts, but governmental agencies can invest their monies because of the bankruptcy in Orange County in the 90s.
Right.
I will reach out to our auditors and our county Office of Education personnel to see, is there places where we can invest some money?
Yeah.
That are relatively secured.
Treasuries, AAA bonds, something. I mean, it's super low risk, but that if you could pursue that extra money, that's kind of found money, we're all about it. So thank you.
Got it. 10-4.
Any other comments or questions for Dave? And this is item 6.4.
No, thank you, Dave. It's always a great report. You always have information at your fingertips. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. It's nice to see that it's 134,000, I think, to the good, right? You forgot to say that.
To the good.
Surplus to the good. You say tomato, I say tomato.
I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Subaki, take a vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right, moving on with fiscal items 6.5 through 6.9, if someone wishes to move them on.
I like the motion 6.5 through 6.9.
Thank you, Nelson.
I'll second, and I have, well, it's okay, Roger can take the second. I have a question.
Go ahead, Joanne. Sure.
Indeed.
My question has to do with 6.6. I don't understand what this is. Could somebody explain what this is, what this item is?
I'll take this one. So second step is our social emotional learning curriculum that we use at all of our school sites at the elementary level. This was actually already approved at our last board meeting, but we had to add another school. So they looked at our school count, and one of our elementary schools was left off because of the K2 3-5 combo. And so this is actually to add on the school that to add on an additional school.
This is SEL support.
Yes.
Now, Joanne, we have, I think Monique Ingram is on. Is Dr. Ingram on, Wendy? She could
I believe so.
probably,
Because this talks about adding adults to this contract.
So, yes.
So that's what confused me. Sorry.
Yeah, so we also have purchased the adult curriculum as well. And so our care team is also reviewing this curriculum and giving access to our teachers and employees to also utilize it as a social emotional tool as well. So it's both for students and for adults.
Okay, so this contract change adds different benefits from this program than we had before and adds another school?
Correct. They fixed the contract to ensure that it did include everyone that we needed on the contract.
Okay, all right.
you know, we have Dr. Ingram here too. She could probably give us a better, sorry, it took a while for her to come across, but
Hi, Dr. Ingram.
Hi, Monique, welcome.
Hi, good evening. How are you? It's good to see you. So yes, Dr. Dougal explained it. So initially the board approved second step curriculum for our middle school students, for our elementary school students, and also, excuse me, a support.
How adorable.
We did see
Also-
the little hand in the background that turned off the light.
Also support for our teachers. And so, as Nisha was explaining, because of the way the invoice was written up and because of the count of our students, one of our schools was left off. And so that's what this agenda item is the approval for that additional school for the curriculum for students and adults that the other schools already have based on your
Okay,
approval.
I get it. That really helps me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ingram. And Dave, on 6.9 on purchase receipts, we'd have, forgive me for if I'm redundant, not remembering, we'd have to talk about exploring developer fees. And I can't remember where we left that in terms of potentially revising those.
So I think we did talk about it, and we're going to look at doing a developer fee study so that we can justify it, or so that we can determine if there's a justification to increase those fees.
Did we authorize that study?
no,
I'll have to double check.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet. No, it was a recommendation that we made to the board to look into that. I think we targeted a year from now. Wasn't this where we looked at maybe next year? We would do the work this year with an idea to maybe increase those fees for I guess it would be fiscal year 22, 23.
So Dr. Silvers, the fees will be reset in January 2022, and so we were going to do the work now to make sure that if we did the study, right, we could have a justification as to why. So I'm assuming we'll bring a developer study to the board shortly.
Okay, great. And I think Dr. Silvers, I think the 2022 year from now was the bond refinance.
Right, you're right.
So great. Thank you. Just want to keep that in our mind. It's all about, I guess it's about money tonight. So sorry. All right. Good.
I have a question on 6.9. There's one item in terms of on the POs. There's the purchase of some robotics kits, which is fantastic. It's for Project Lead the Way. Question is, for what grade levels will we be using the robotics kits? Who will have access to those?
So we have, I'll answer that. We have DEX kits for all grade levels, actually, any teacher that's been trained in PLTW, but this purchase is specific, I believe, to the middle school because they use them regularly. Pandemic, we just have a lot of leftovers from last year that we're going to reuse over at the elementaries. Joanne Michael also uses them. She's behind some of that work.
So right now, pretty much all of our students will have access to one of these robotics kits.
Depending on if their teachers trained at every grade level, yes, we should have some. We should have some touch with PLTW. The VEX kits, you know, they're kind of ordered by grade level, so it depends on the teacher. But Joanne, as I said, Joanne Michael also utilizes these as part of her program.
Okay.
Beyond
okay.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then last comment on this item as well, Dr. Goldman, you did a shout out over to Chevron for the $25,000 donation. I saw that on the receipt side. So I don't know if those funds were used to buy these robotics kits, but if they were, fantastic. And thank you to Chevron for that contribution as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger. I think we're ready for a vote, Wendy.
Alrighty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Moving to consent, items 7.1 through 7.24, if so desired.
You have a motion 7.1 through 7.24, Neil.
Thank you, Nelson. These are our consent items.
I'll second.
Thank you, Roger. Comments, clarifications, questions, anyone?
None.
I don't have any.
A shout out to Rebecca Hamburg, and 21 is the Selpa Community Advisory Committee. Thank you for your volunteering to do that. We really appreciate your support with the district, and will represent us well, I'm sure. Wendy, let's vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Moving to personnel, items 8.1 through 10. Motion, please.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Joanne.
I'll second.
I also have a question.
Please.
See which one it is. Do we have a leave of absence? There it is, 8.3. I don't know, going into if this is a personnel item, I don't necessarily need to go into the details, but just wanted to ask that this leave of absence follows our guidelines that we now have. I don't know who to ask, Nisha or Blake.
Yeah, it's me. It does follow the guidelines that we have in our CBA, and that's why it's being brought to the board.
Okay, good, thank you. That's the only question I had.
Any other questions? Thank you for your thoughtful discretion, Joanne. Let's take a vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
All right, Dr. Silver or Ms. Subaki, I'm not sure who, to take us through upcoming events.
Right, so we do have a different back to school night process this year, just because of recommendations from the County Department of Public Health related to bringing large numbers of people onto campus. Want to limit what's considered a large gathering or a big gathering. So we are doing Zoom back to school nights and our back to school night. So you could see that they're here on the listed. We do not have Zoom links yet, so we'll have to get those out to the board as soon as we get them. So they are TBD at this point, but we have the times by grade level. So you can see on Tuesday, September 21, we will have the event, and then you could see the corresponding grade levels. We also have our next board meeting. It's a Wednesday. So just to clarify, this was part of our, we actually had a back to school night scheduled for that Thursday, which is why we had a year prior, we had scheduled this as a Wednesday board meeting to avoid the sort of collision there with the back to school night. So we're gonna stick to the meeting as scheduled on Wednesday, 6 p.m. But I believe Dr. Goldman, if we want, we could post, I believe, a 5 o'clock. You had indicated to me that you may want to try 5 o'clock closed session. So I can be in touch with you on that, and when we post the agenda, we'll post accordingly.
I appreciate it.
And then Thursday, the 23rd, we have Dana Middle School's back to school night again. More info to come, TBD in terms of the Zoom information, but we'll get that all to the board.
And relative to the board meeting on the 22nd, the massive infrastructure needed to make this both live and digital at the same time was a bigger lift than any of us expected. So I think the expectation is that meeting will also be Zoom before we resume in person, just so we can stream well and have a better experience for those watching as well.
That's true. Absolutely. Our goal would be to be at least hopefully operational by then. But again, we hope to be operational about a month ago, and parts just are sitting around and back ordered and all of that. So we did do some changes to the actual infrastructure a little bit to cut costs, but also to be able to expedite the process, but not get lesser quality. So Jesse Corral from Da Vinci Schools has been really helpful in us identifying the best product to use, and it all mixes with Crestron, which is our current operating system or vendor that we've used for this. Or so we will have that. I guess in short, we're hoping to. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. We're ready to go by the 22nd, but we'll still call it a virtual meeting at this point. And then by law, essentially at this point, we're expecting that 10/14, so October 14, we'd be back in person for regularly scheduled board meeting as per the law.
I have a question. Is the September 15th joint board meeting considered a Weisman Unified School District board meeting? What did we decide about that, Blake?
So we did, it's considered a joint board meeting. We didn't decide on it. It will be posted sort of jointly. We'll post it as Weisman would post, and then Da Vinci will post it as they normally post. So both boards and both communities who don't get each other's messages will see the posting.
Okay, good, thanks.
All right, we've reached the end of the agenda. Is there any more business that any member wishes to raise at this time? All right, then at 7:22 and 24 seconds, we declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a nice night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Everyone. Thank you.